up in the. Hello, Michelle Girasole. Thank you so much for being on the ROI and You Career Success Tips show. I am always so excited to talk to you, and I'm sorry that we don't get to do so more often.
I know, I know. I love what you're doing with this show. This is, I love the concept of ROI and you. It's like you got to think that way, and it's great.
Yes,
It's on your
ROI
show.
and the
I'm
dog
honored to
barking.
be here. Honored to be here with you and your dog.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we just chatted for a little bit, and I was just curious because you work with interns, you have been a business owner, you're a serial entrepreneur. Um, you advise. How many businesses do you think you've advised?
Uh, well, I know we've sold a couple thousand copies of the book, and I've done hundreds of workshops for email marketing, so it has to be in the thousands. I don't, I should have kept a tally, but yeah, many, many, many hundreds of businesses. It's been a joy for a long time.
That's awesome. I love it. And so, what are you up to now? Like, tell me a little bit about your background and what you're up to.
Yeah, yeah. So um, I started out in digital. I started out in general marketing and corporate marketing, and it's been 20 years that I started as a constant contact email brand partner. So I was one of their first, and I think there's 9,000 in the country. And that, I've used that platform, and I still continue to use that platform for projects. But the path went from starting one of the first digital marketing companies, which was Next Step Web Marketing, which merged with Precision Web Marketing, back in 2003. When my daughter was born in 2002, I launched that. So she's a sophomore in college herself now, and it's hard to believe that went by so fast. Um, but I used that to work with small businesses and just loved the process of starting my own company. Decided to write a book about the startup process for women, the Sassy Ladies Toolkit for Startup Businesses, which launched in 2009. And then I got to go deep and work with a startup company in the food space. And that's where I found my passion for promoting healthy organic nutrition. Some brands that I'm promoting are like superfood organic powders and smoothies, and clean crafted wine. And now I've just picked up a new brand of pet food because quality nutrition matters. Our health really stems from the quality of the food that we eat. So it's fun to work within that space and apply my technical skills to that. And then some local projects like the church that I work for needed some communications help, so I've been bringing them up to speed with Zoom and um, with a new blog, a new website, and live streaming the worship. So it's just really really fun to apply the technology skills that have developed over the last 20 years in different ways. It's a very enjoyable work that I get to do, mostly from home now. Now we're all
I hear
connected.
you. I
Yeah,
hear you on that. So that's
yeah.
actually a good. That's a brings up a good question in terms of working from home. Um, and had you been working from home before COVID?
Yeah, so I did work from home. When I had my agency, I had a team of 6 people and about 40 clients. So that and toddlers at home. So we had office space then, and I've gone back and forth. It's you're home and you want to have an office, and then you're in an office and you want to be home. But um, the ability to connect like this has never been better, and it was fun right when COVID started. I remember there was a point where some of the elders of the church who would always kind of disdain the kids being on their screens all the time, all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden magically could connect for a board meeting online, and they were so excited. But the kids who were so used to being screen, and now they're homeschooling,
Mm-hmm.
distance learning, they were out in the backyard off screen. I was like, this is like a role reversal. It was so fun to
Oh,
see.
interesting. That is
Yeah,
really interesting.
so fun to see that disconnect for the younger kids and that joy of connection for the older folks. So yeah, we're really in an interesting time, enabling us to do stuff like this that wouldn't have been so easy before. So it's been fun to see the internet develop over the last 20 years and all the capabilities that we have.
Yeah, so speaking of capabilities, and well, first let's talk about work from home. What are some good work from home skills that, maybe don't transfer from doing remote learning, but remote working? There are some overlaps, but what are some other ways that maybe they don't overlap?
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice that I got was to when I left working in a corporate office to establish a working hours, establish a set number of working hours, because especially now with smartphones, you can connect anytime, you can answer email anytime, and you don't know when you're about to burn out. So, the discipline of starting at a specific time and doing work for a specific time, then going to do the stuff that you would normally do at home, but closing the door and saying, okay, I'm done with work for the night. Now I'm going to go play outside, take the dog for a walk, and now I'm going to do my life. Having that self-discipline to keep those hours, it's really important for being a balanced individual, because I find when I don't do that, I can wake up thinking about work, jump in before the kids need to go to school and start work, and then you lose track of time, and all of a sudden you're working all the time. So probably been one of the hardest things for me to practice, but there's a payoff when you do have that balance. It takes discipline and planning. You just got to plan before you jump in and do, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely a plan. It's so funny because when I make a list of, my monthly, weekly, daily goals, and the tasks, like the must do's, it makes such a huge difference in terms of like not only do you get a lot more done, but you also have a much better sense of accomplishment and direction. So on Friday, when you go to
Yeah.
unplug, hopefully for the weekend, you
Yeah.
say, okay, like I did this. And actually, I have a time tracking software, but I also keep little post-it notes that I use for my dailies. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's just helpful to just jot things down.
Oh, I'm a
Um,
list person. Yeah. If it's not on a
yeah,
list, I might miss it. And, yeah, which is the most important three things I have to do today. Go to the list, figure it out. Yeah.
yeah.
So the
That
post-it notes, I think I would have them up all over my space. So I did that once. I admire if you can use the post-it note strategy.
Yeah, yeah, you have to be careful because they're like ants. All of a sudden, they start going everywhere. It's like put the picnic stuff away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, what about? Are there any communication skills or soft skills that really would adapt well or need to be acquired in order to be working in COVID times, potentially working remote?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it's just the transition from being in person and being online, and looking at people through a little square and being in a room with them and reading their body language. So it's really, I would say, the best thing that can be done is the listening, to really hear what someone is saying. There's an expression that I love, which is the acronym WAIT, which means why am I talking? So you're always ready to jump in with the next thought or what's on your mind, but to just kind of sit and listen to what that person is saying, so let hear them out without interrupting.
Sure.
It's hard, but I think that's one of the best communication skills that you can do, online or in person.
I think that's a great tip, one that I definitely need to adopt more
Well, because
as
we're
it
all
happens.
speaking and we all want to contribute, and you don't always have to jump in, and sometimes you hear things differently, and it just changes the flow of the conversation, and it can be really rich to just listen or clarify. So becoming a better listener there should be listening classes in college.
Yeah, well, these are some of the soft skills that we have baked into the ROI&U curriculum, and the way the program is set up is that there are synchronous pieces, and then there's some homework pieces and some project work. But we are really trying to make sure that all these skills that are not taught in college really get brought to the forefront so that you can be a contributor from day one. Obviously, I was just actually chatting with one of my most recent interns who just landed her first job, and she's super excited. And they were just talking about how, when I was doing her reference, they were talking about how great it is that she has all this experience. And my advice to her was, make sure that you block off enough time, like like most people, right? There's a lot of distractions, a lot of things going on, but
Right.
to be able to give yourself time to acclimate and relax after work so
Yeah.
that you have a chance to process, you're going to be learning so much so quickly, and getting into your career quickly and being a contributor, I think is one of the biggest things that could possibly happen. And so we really
Yeah.
try hard to focus on that.
Yeah. Employers take notice of that. I think you in the internship experience, in the program that you run, you're giving them self-confidence so that they can say, oh yeah, I remember this and this is how it worked out last time, so I'm going to do my best here. I might not be perfect, but I'm going to contribute. And that stands out, believe it or not, from, not that asking questions is bad, but just saying, all right, this is my gut feeling, I'm going with it, and I'm going to make an effort here. It really doesn't go unnoticed. And I think that's great advice. But yeah, to process everything is we're always achieving and growing and striving and doing, and to sit back and reflect on it, even journal it, if that's,
Mm-hmm.
make notes on what happened during the day so you can go back and reflect on it. That's really good advice.
Yeah, lists and notes I think are really underrated. And going back, I find that there's this tendency or bias toward just doing it, right? Like I'll send an email, okay, I need these three corrections. Well, we'll go and make the corrections, but then go back to the email that requested the corrections and make sure you got everything. And
Yeah.
the other thing too is not to assume that that the person who is advising you or is your boss or you're working with the project on that they're not making a mistake too. So kind of going back and checking your work and making sure that everything is as good as it could be, because I don't know if you found this from running an agency, but the volume of back and forth is just incredible.
Yeah. At high speed, and you're trying to get through your inbox. And I will admit to having guilt from working with an email marketing giant for 20 years. Like, I've created the 20,000 unread inboxes. The volume of messaging just is unprecedented. So you're trying to get through it all and you miss things. You just can't help it. So I think to stop, pause, and go back and reread someone's words again before you react or before you submit something, make sure you check all the boxes. Very smart. Just slow down, slow
Yeah.
down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the time that 2 extra minutes is going to take to just double check, make sure you did everything right, is probably going to save like 20 minutes of back and forth. And one thing that when you are virtual is you have to find a time, right? That's going to work for you both. Maybe you're on deadline. Is this whole process going to actually make you miss deadline, which reflects on you, right?
Right.
This is the job you need to do. This is the time frame that you need to do it in. Yes, questions come up, but that person's answering emails from other people. I just think that this is not really talked about enough.
It
Um,
goes back to the discipline and planning. Like,
mhm.
if you don't plan, you're not going to know when you can commit to the project. I've in the agency world, you have multiple clients, everybody wants everything yesterday, and you only have so many resources to work with to get the job done. So, and that, you've got to plan. That's probably 40% of the day is planning the work, the proposal, the budget, and then the execution of the project. You can't spend the whole time doing, and you can't spend your whole day in meetings. You've got to be really disciplined about planning. And it's, if you're a solopreneur, you have a little more control over working with a team. With a team, you have more resources to work with, so you can work a little faster. But if you're not in sync, and as you said before, your expectations aren't aligned, that can really hijack a project and send, especially if the client's expectations aren't aligned, then it sends you back to the drawing board and you're really losing money on that project. So it's a delicate balance, but the more you can stop and think it through and get it right the first time, the better off you are.
That's fantastic. And a lot of times when we talk about, the agency world and when it's like working with clients, I like to just point out that it there's a correlation, right? They're kind of like parallel tracks. Like when you and I are talking about working with clients, that also applies to think of your boss as a client. Think of the hiring manager as a client. They're your client if you're looking for a job, or you are their colleague. Just to be thinking about how yeah, that communication piece, that satisfaction piece is really important because that's going to define your potential for promotion, bonuses, other tasks, other career development pieces. Really being able to manage that relationship very well, I think, is really important, whether it's a client or a boss.
Yeah. Yeah, the people that you work with, regardless of the hierarchy, if you think of everyone as being not a servant leader, that's not the right word, but you're giving your skills in service to someone, a boss, a client, a colleague, another department head. You're showing up for them and you're building trust with them, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that is your greatest asset, to be able to say, I have a trusted relationship with this person who's at the top level of the company or the bottom level of the company. You're building your people network, and that is, it's really, really important to do that right. And you're not going to get along with everyone, or you might not love everyone in your company, but if you can earn earn their trust and their respect, then it's going to take you really far in your career. That's a big one for me.
I love it. Yeah. And the other thing too is that when you show up and you can succeed from day one, right? You're the person who's going to be in demand. And one of our goals is to make sure that our ROI and you alumni don't have to job hunt, right? Like you land this job, with one of our agency partners, you're growing and you decide, okay, maybe I want something different. Maybe I want to go in-house. Well, guess what? Your network has already grown to a point, your skills are at a point where recruiters will be beating down your door. You don't even have to lift a finger hardly. Show
Right.
up for the interview, answer the email, show them the work that you've done. That's really the goal, and that's the progression. And I think it's really important. I was just again talking with my most recent intern about how much career readiness is instilled, and it's not necessarily a taught skill. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you're finding that with your interns and students that you've been working with.
Yeah. Lot to digest there, but I think you have the ability to learn topics and skills in your classroom experience, and then you have the ability or the opportunity to apply them, for all internships have different experiences, but um, you're going out and you're applying what you know in a very safe environment in an internship. It gets to be your practice ground, and then you're you're relying on that experience and that trusted reference to go out into the world, and find your first job, that you can say, I had something that's relevant to this job that I'm applying for. I had this experience, whether it was a group project in a classroom or an internship in which I, did this campaign or worked on this blog project, but I know that you need this and I can do it because I did it. That's a huge, huge bonus. Versus, like, I'm a new graduate and I just want to learn. You're not there to learn. You're there to work. You're there
Yeah,
to do a job,
exactly.
complete a task, help the team, whatever it is that your job is going to be. We're paying you not to learn. There'll be some learning, obviously some training, and I think sometimes a grace period of a few months to get things completely right when you start a new job. But the more, that I think today, I never had this experience, back then, but just the way people apply for jobs online and the recruiting process and the sheer volume of resumes that can get, tossed around, it's challenging to stand out. And that's one of the things that, if you can share an experience that makes you stand out, I think that gives you a huge edge. Pro tip.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that we talked about that I want to make sure we have time to touch on is networking and
Yeah.
how important that is.
Yes, it's the people that I know that have gotten me the best clients and the best jobs. I feel the students today are doing a better job of that than I did when I was in college. They come to alumni events. They show up for business, local business, chamber meetings that I never would have thought to do. But they're out there getting people skills and learning to talk to people in a professional way. And even calling up your alumni office at your school and saying, I need to talk with an alumni who has these skills because
Mm-hmm.
this is what I want to do, and just have an informational interview with them. Um, Especially if you went to the same school, there's a common bond, and most alumni want to help, current students up there, even if it's just a phone call and a piece of advice. I was lucky to be at a job crossroads. I was offered two jobs and I couldn't decide which was a better fit for owning my own agency someday. So I called the University of Rhode Island Alumni Network and I said, "Can you put me in touch with someone who owns an agency? I'd like to ask some simple questions." Picked up the phone, talked to Gary Kulberg, who is the owner of an agency in New York, and I expected to call, make an appointment. He answered the phone and talked to me for an hour, and he became a client when he moved back to Rhode Island. I helped him learn the digital side of marketing, whereas he was, traditional advertising and marketing strategy. And then he referred me to a bunch of clients, and it helped me grow my business by leaps and bounds. And we're still friends today. So it's the people. If you can just gain those people skills and that confidence to just ask questions, say, "I'm new, I'm curious, I just want to know your opinion." Who doesn't like to share their opinion with someone who thinks they're an expert? So,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that helps you get that handoff. Like, they know people who are hiring, and they might think of you and say, "Oh, I know this kid that just graduated or is about to graduate. You should talk to them." And then they open doors for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important. I think one of the reasons, or that's different from when we graduated from college, is it's just so much easier, right? Like you wouldn't even have to necessarily call the alumni office. You could go onto LinkedIn and you could do a search for people
Yeah.
who graduate from URI, and this is their job title. And I should probably post a little segment on an easy way to do that because it's pretty straightforward.
It's a good idea.
Um,
I
but
don't know if you hear it. I'm hearing a voice in the background. Is there a window open?
oh, that's interesting.
I'm going to close all my windows. I don't know if it's on my end.
Yeah, let me.
You can't hear it? I'm
No,
sorry to interrupt you.
no, it's no problem. I
Okay.
gotta make sure that I don't have anything with audio. But yeah, interesting. It's always technology. There's something fun going on, right? Yep, I don't hear it.
Okay.
But one thing that, and that's another thing at RRYNU, we have experts who have been in the industry a very long time, who are in the trenches doing the work, but also bringing in their networks. I have over 5,000 connections on LinkedIn, and they're from all over the world. They're from people I've met at conferences, clients, so all kinds
You're a
of.
machine. You're a machine of people connectors, Suzanne. It's very
Well, I mean,
impressive.
in let's say 11 years that I've run Newport Interactive Marketing, we hosted probably on average about 50 people 10 times a year. And so, yeah, you add that up, it's exponential. A lot of frequent flyers, as I call them. But,
Yes.
but yeah, making sure that I'm connecting with those people. And also, let's talk a little bit about, to maybe wrap us up, talk about service. Whether it's in your career or in your network, what are some tips that I'm sure you have some great tips about service and sort of the philosophy of service when it comes to growing your career or your business?
Yeah, there's two things I would my go-to when I first started my company. I had no client experience. I had done some volunteer work as a professional for the Business Volunteers for the Arts that I could point to, but I wanted like a big heavy hitter client so that I could go and say, "Yes, I did this campaign for this organization that was well known." So I did a survey. I sent a survey to Roger Williams Park Zoo, and I said I want to work with them. And I sent them a survey, and I said, "Oh, I'm willing to volunteer to work with you to do this." So just getting that first client project, I wasn't paid for it, but I could point to it as work I had done for an organization that led to the credibility and that I was able to work with other organizations that I then pitched. So that is always a sneaky service. Like, I'm
I was
just
gonna
going to
say that's a good trick there, Michelle.
yeah, yeah, send a survey of your needs, and oh, by the way, you're the winner. You get this free consult and free package, and then I have some legs to stand on. But then the second tip I would say is just find out what you're passionate about, because you're going to do such a better job. Like if you love animals, go do service for an animal organization, or or kids, or if there's a cause that you care about, they need the help, and that gives you the experience, and that gives you the self-confidence, and the shared stories that you can bring to any interview. So yeah, service, if you can think about yourself as, here's what I bring to the table in service to you, my boss, my client, my colleague. I think that's a really good way. What can I do to help? um, yeah, then you just you're not going to know all the answers, but you're going to put your best effort forward. I think that's always good advice.
Yeah. And what were some of the attributes that you were looking for when you were hiring at your agency?
Oh, good. I wanted someone who was eager to learn, because the technology was changing so fast. I wanted someone who had a curiosity about them, but that had a self confidence that they weren't going to be hesitant. Like I needed them to do the job, and I would give them training, and then I wanted them to go and do the best they could without stopping all the time to ask questions. Is that can I say that?
No,
Really,
I
that's
think that's an important piece, right? The autonomy and be able to go and kind of figure things out. When I first started teaching college classes, students would ask like some very basic questions, and I would say, I could stand here and lecture on this, but chances are, like, you just Google it and it'll give you the answer, and like it's pretty standard answer. Let's
yeah.
talk about something that is more nuanced.
Right, right,
And they have their laptops open because it was a digital marketing course. So,
right.
they'd just be like, look it up and then like, oh, and then spit out the answer real quick because there's probably other people in the room who had the same question.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, being resourceful, figuring things out. That's a really, if they can prove that they had a project that they were able to just show up and do some work on their own, that was like being a self-starter is a really key skill.
I love it. I love it. And then as far as digital marketing, would you be looking for people who had a lot of experience?
You know, um, I think that there's I'm going to say it this way, there's a knowledge of the platform as a user of the platform, but there's also the skill of knowing how to communicate a client message, and meet client expectations and project deadlines. So it's um, to have experience in a platform, like anyone can use Facebook. That wasn't important to me, but showing that you could get results from a campaign that you did on the platform is a big deal. It shows that you know the steps, and you know the mindset, and you can start a project from start to finish, and show results and speak to those results. That's hard to find, actually. It was a frustration as the technology started coming out with social media. It's like, oh, I can tweet, so I'm going to be a marketing strategist. It's like, no, not the same. you know
Yeah. Yeah, well, to understand, to strategize, understand, and adopt a brand voice is something that brands themselves have a hard time doing. So
yeah,
it's a skill, and that's one of the things that I think through doing a significant project that you're working with a specific client over. Our course is designed to be over 7 weeks, and it's
yeah,
not full time, it's like a few hours a day,
yeah.
but that you really get to understand the brand and adapt that brand voice, I think is really important and a good skill. It's like learning another language, right?
Such a rich experience. That's a great strategy, great model.
Yeah. And then typically how much experience were you looking for? Were you hiring recent grads or
I paired together as I grew, professionals that I had worked with that were looking for, that were looking for part-time work at the beginning, and then we grew together, and then we did hire some. So I worked with the University of Rhode Island College of Business in some semester-long projects, and so I did take a couple of those kids. As they graduated, or in paid internships that they were able to kind of prove themselves, and then I would assign them to some client work. One of them like stayed with us and worked, but a lot of them it was like a stepping stone to their next thing because my agency was so small. So
Yeah.
it was great. It was great for us. It was great for them. It's always nice to have more hands on deck that are capable, and working with them in internships, it was a really positive experience on both sides.
That's fantastic. Well, any last tips or things that we didn't talk about that you'd like to mention?
Ooh, let me see. I think, if our audience is students that are learning, and the classroom experience is big, but the hands-on experience, the more you can get, the earlier you can get it, the better off you're going to be. So, people like Suzanne make great opportunities for you. Take advantage of it, and talk to your professors. Get that connection with the networks going. That's, the people are what matter. The people are who you work for. The people pay the bills. The people can open doors for you. Meet as many people as you can.
That is such great advice. And I just wanted to wrap up and say that we have some workshops coming up, and we have a cohort starting in the fall for our full length course. And if you're listening or watching and you're interested, you can go to roinu.com. And there's a lot of opportunities to click apply or learn more, or my contact info is there. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you. And thank you so much, Michelle. This was so great.
Thanks for having me, and keep on doing all that amazing work, Suzanne. This is an
Oh,
incredible resource.
thank you so much.
All right, have a good one, guys.